Did you call my name? While I'm passing out, the mistake I've made, it can't be turned around.
How do you describe the feeling of stepping out to the night sky with only the wind and the stars keeping you company? The goal is simple: get from point A to point B. It's not about the destination, but merely the journey along the way. That childlike sense of wonder takes over our body. Will it be easy? Will it be dangerous? Did I pack enough supplies to make it to my destination? The unknown is present and real, but that's what's also so exciting about it. The sense of discovery makes us feel so small in a big world. I personally love this feeling, and I also understand that it's not for everyone. I moved away from Alabama over 10 years ago now, and I've been going on adventures since the day I left. During my time in Colorado, I would pack up my Jeep every Friday and hit the road with my dog. I'd visit national parks, go camping, whitewater rafting, snowboarding, and whatever else I could get my hands on. It was always so exciting for me to see all these beautiful places by myself. It was very liberating. I always enjoyed setting out goals for myself and conquering it by any means necessary. Either by myself or with a group of friends, it really doesn't matter. If you want to experience something, I say go for it. Make it happen. If I can do it, you can do it. This feeling I'm describing is how Death Stranding 2 makes me feel. Obviously, there is so much more than what I'm talking about, but I wanted to start here first. I've never played a game that represents that sense of adventure so damn well. There are so many moments throughout DS2 where I was completely engulfed and enamored with what I was witnessing. For example, I've climbed so many mountains in video games, but towards the later half of the game, I was making a delivery up to the top of the mountain. The snow was falling heavier and heavier with each step. The wind was howling and blowing from every direction. The sense of scale of the peaks surrounding me was a spectacle. The snowpack became deeper and deeper as I struggled to press on. My visibility was gone out the window, and just as doubt started to creep into my mind, the sun began to slowly rise over the mountains in front of me, creating the most beautiful sunrise you've ever seen. I mean, it was spectacular. Now, I've experienced this so many times in real life, but this is one of the first times in a video game where I was truly in awe. That feeling in your belly where you just can't reproduce in most movies or games. And this is why Death Stranding 2 is not a game. It's an experience. Speaking of an experience, Death Stranding as a whole has always seemed to come into my life at the perfect time. When DS1 came out, I was really struggling with one of the worst stints of anxiety I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was brutal, and I made a video about it. If you haven't seen it yet, I would highly encourage you to go watch it. Here's the link right here. Fast forward to Death Stranding 2, and now I'm dealing with a broken elbow. On top of a broken bone, I'm out of work for an extended period of time, and now my claim is under review for some BS. So, it was rough to say the least. It's bad enough being sidelined with an injury, but with the financial implications looming over me, I was struggling. Now, with all that being said, my claim was eventually approved, and I was cleared to return to work. And on top of that, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. A Death Stranding 2 tunnel. I also don't think this is a coincidence. Kojima mentioned back in 2020 that he was feeling lonely and isolated as a result of the pandemic. You can feel this notion in the experience. The sense of connection in the world was lacking. On top of that, the online culture was and still is pretty toxic to a degree. Between the hateful comments, dislikes, and consistent arguing seems to be weighing heavily upon our shoulders. That's why DS1 and DS2 are in a class of their own when it comes to creating a positive strand among a lost and tarnished society. Death Stranding 2 allows you to connect with others in a positive manner without being pushy or overbearing. This is a feat that many have tried, while only a few have succeeded. Everyone is entitled to have their own opinion, but personally, it's so naturally addicting to provide resources and support for yourself and others at the same time. There is really nothing better than seeing the love and support from other players when they use your bridge or timefall shelter. People helping people is a beautiful thing. Kojima was also brilliant in the sense of knowing that everyone will not be into this, and that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their own part to play. Some are builders, some are porters, some are both. And some are simply here to have a good time. There is no right or wrong way to play DS2. Kojima simply provides us with the tools, and it's up to you how you want to use them. This is why so many people find the gameplay loop of DS2 addicting. First, you have the simple dopamine hit of completing a delivery and receiving likes from your fellow porters. And secondly, it's the freedom of going about your business or your pleasure your own personal way. The possibilities are boundless, and the funnest part is discovering what's actually possible. If you can dream it, you can do it. My only caveat is having too many options with the use of so many tools. Most of the time I just stick to a few of my staples, and I tend to forget about some of the other options available. I have to give Kojima a lot of credit for his improvements with the gameplay as a whole. You can really tell he put in the time and energy into listening and understanding the criticism of DS1. He built upon that foundation and improved the combat and gameplay on every level. My experience with combat is night and day from DS1. In the first game, I'd go out of my way to avoid combat. It felt stiff and a little clunky. The menu was overly complicated and difficult to navigate. In DS2, it feels more fluid, allowing more precise aiming with weapons. I can finally feel in control of Sam. I mean, now I'm running around drop-kicking enemies in slow motion, throwing grenades, picking people off left and right. It's so much fun. It's actually really damn fun. And on top of that, the menu has been simplified to a degree. And the new shortcuts, chef's kiss. Kojima, thank you. Let me give you a few examples. You can now take off your backpack by just holding down the triangle button, and you can tie it all together securely, which is so nice because if you bust your ass, not all of your gear and packages are going to go flying everywhere anymore. You can also just hit up on the D-pad to access your cargo. These quality of life improvements are so amazingly helpful and convenient. It's fun and all talking about the gameplay, but let's get back to how this experience made me feel. We have to talk about the music before I get into the story. I have no idea where Kojima finds these artists, but this soundtrack for the entire, actually, not just this soundtrack, the soundtrack for the entire DS series is unbelievable. And once again, DS2 takes it to another level. Between Low Roar and Woodkid alone, this music is beautiful and touches the very fibers of my soul. Some of these tracks had me shedding a tear of joy and sorrow. Nothing compares to driving or walking across a stunning landscape bathed in a miraculous sunset. Pure bliss. It really makes me want to stop and appreciate how Kojima was able to create such a beautiful, heart-wrenching experience for the many who chose to give it a go. Okay, that's enough glazing Kojima, for now at least. Let's talk about the story. Before I go any further, this is the part of the video where I will be talking about spoilers. I will put up a timestamp on screen so you know where to skip ahead. So, you have been warned, let's get it. My experience was broken up into 3 stages: joy, exhaustion, and closure. The story starts off pretty joyful. Sam seems to be living a pretty happy and peaceful life with Lou and Fragile. It's incredible how emotionally invested we get right off the bat with this story. We, the player, tend to feel the same emotions as Sam. Let me explain. At the start, everything is fresh, exciting, and new. Each package we deliver, each new like we get, each new bridge we provide, gives us a sense of accomplishment and, more importantly, a nice dopamine hit. We can't underestimate the simple joy of going from A to B. I've been mentioning it before, but I truly believe this is where some enjoy the experience and some others just simply don't. Let me try to explain once again. You see, the world around us is consistently distracting us with something new and exciting, or the ability to do something quickly and convenient. With the rise of TikTok and YouTube Shorts, our attention spans have taken a major blow. Instant gratification has become the norm, and standards like this have simply kind of gone out the window. We don't really like to wait or work for something, take our time. These principles have gotten lost in the sauce along the way. So DS2 is trying to bring that notion back. Yeah, DS2 cranks up the combat towards the beginning compared to DS1, but overall I still think that the feeling from both titles is the same. Kojima wants you to take your time, stop and smell the roses, soak up your surroundings, and really feel the weight of the story and soundtrack. That's what I love about it. It's not pushing me in any direction. I can go about it in my own way. That's what the beginning of the story is all about. Establishing these connections with your crew, each port we connect, and our fellow porters. This is where we develop those relationships we bond with throughout our playthrough. I was addicted to establishing new routes, building new assets for myself and others. I really tried to be mindful of other porters when I was building stuff, talking about placement and how I was using it. It's a beautiful thing helping other random people, and it's not forced. It's completely natural. I really feel like this aspect is intentional. I think Kojima sees that the world is hurting and we need to create a positive interaction with one another. Speaking of connections, the addition of Tomorrow and Rainy I love. The introduction of Rainy speaks to the joy of part 1 of this experience. Such a traumatic character on one hand, but yet so full of life and optimism. It's hard for me not to relate to some of these characters. We all have our own personal battles, and in the end we all need each other. Just like Tomorrow, an outcast considered by many a freak for her abilities. But she's really a kind and compassionate person who just wants to be accepted and loved. Just like myself. Now we're entering phase 2 of DS2, which is exhausting. Let me explain. At this point, we are roughly 20 to 35 hours into the experience during this phase. Now we are trying to obtain at least 4 or 5 stars from the lone commander, government camp, and really anyone else I encounter. I honestly wasn't like this in DS1, but I couldn't stop myself from finding lost packages and standard deliveries. The rewards were incredible. I was obsessed with trying to obtain the silenced sniper rifle. Was it worth it? Yes and no, because honestly it was a pain in the ass. I built a shelter up there to help rest after, battling waves of BTs to make my life a little bit easier. Not only at this point are you a little bit exhausted with upgrading and deliveries, but now Higgs is showing up and making life super difficult for you by introducing ghost mechs and giant octopus mechs. Elements like wildfires and sandstorms are now obstacles in our way. It feels like the world around us is a living and breathing organism trying to take us down. The DHV Magellan also has its fair share of issues as well. Fast travel has become disabled, making standard deliveries a lot more time consuming, but nevertheless, it gives you the opportunity to go old school and head out on foot or by vehicle. I want to be clear, I still really enjoyed this part of the experience, but I did feel pretty exhausted by the 30-hour mark. I will say though, I think it's my own fault. I got a little too excited at the beginning of the game and wanted to do everything. Whenever I start to have this feeling where I get overwhelmed or exhausted from a game, I like to balance things out so I can avoid the burnout. For example, I like to lean into my comfort games during this time. During DS2, I'd play games of NHL 19 in my franchise mode. Something completely different and then mindless to a degree, but those games of hockey would completely recharge my batteries and get me excited to step back into the world of DS2, feeling rejuvenated. Moving right along, that brings us to the last phase of my experience. I call this phase closure. Now at this point, we're in the last 10-ish hours of the experience, and this is where things start to become very heavy, literally and figuratively. Deliveries have become larger and more difficult overall. Sam's journey through the mountains is intense. Visibility is low and avalanches are breaking off from the peaks above us. It's beautiful, but it's slow in a good way. It really makes you want to stop and take in some of the incredible sights and sounds. You have to travel long distances without really stopping, most of the time. So I made sure I could build at least 2 generators along the way, ensuring that my cargo and my truck would make it in one piece. Towards the end of the game, Sam was literally being tortured alive by Higgs. This sequence was so brutal to experience. Higgs has Sam stuck in a burning loop of death. Finally, Rainey and Tomorrow come along to save Sam, but it was extremely hard to watch. Shortly after that, Sam fully recovers, and it's time for Dollman and Fragile to break the news to Sam. Fragile tells Sam the truth about Lou and how Higgs actually killed him. Sam slowly starts to realize he's been traveling without Lou this entire time. We all grieve loss in different ways. Speaking as someone who's lost a younger sibling, you start to accept over time that you've lost a piece of yourself forever. But growth does happen as well. It never gets easy, but it gets easier over time to process and come to terms with things. You'll continue to think about them weekly, daily, and the weirdest things will always make you think of them. In conclusion, if you've been watching this video, I'm sure you enjoyed DS2 as much as I did. I hope it brought you peace and allowed you to slow down, try something new, and enjoy the process. That's what this experience is all about in the end. Appreciating the good and the bad. If we start to struggle and get over our head, just remember what Dumbledore once said. Help will always be given in Death Stranding to those who ask for it. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you found this video entertaining, to say the least. If so, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Until next time, my friends, stay blessed.